It's week 8 on the Pacific Crest Trail, and we are officially in the Sierra Nevada, and I could not be happier about it.
A river in the trail. Feels like the AT. Feels like home.
There were trees. I was rejoicing for the trees and the abundance of water. It felt so good to be back with tall mountains. But the thing that I was about to very quickly have to get used to in the Sierra Nevada was river crossings. I didn't really want to get my feet wet this early in the morning, and so we had to use this giant tree to walk across, which felt a bit sketchy. It is day 50 and the start of week 8 on the Pacific Crest Trail. This morning we did our first water crossing, our first river crossing. Yeah, I did not enjoy it. It really even wasn't that bad. We just had to go over a tree, but I'm not looking forward to those, and we have 2 more today. So that should be fun. But good news is that last night I slept a lot better. So that hopefully means I'm somewhat getting used to the altitude a little bit, though we are climbing up high again. So yeah, we are going to be crossing the junction to do Whitney in a few miles, and we're opting not to climb Whitney for a few reasons. One, none of our group is doing it, and we don't necessarily want to do it, just the 2 of us. 2, a lot of people are still saying that you need micro spikes and your ice axes, and while we have those, and I've used micro spikes, I've never used an ice axe. And 3, we've heard that some people have had to be like SAR'd, so we don't want to be those people. And yeah, so we've just decided that for now it's not in our best interest, and we're gonna come back and do it some other time. I did actually really want to do it, but I don't want to do it just the 2 of us, just because we don't have that much mountaineering experience, and I don't want it to be like a rough situation. So yeah, not doing Whitney, which kind of sucks, but I guess that just means we'll have to come back, or we'll have to do it when we eventually one day do the JMT. So, yeah, it was a tough choice, but I think I'm okay with it. We're gonna get to see so many beautiful things and views, and also I feel like that once we do some of these passes with my micro spikes and ice axe, like I'll feel better with them, and maybe one day I'll feel better about coming back and doing Whitney. I honestly wish it was like a little bit later in the trail, so maybe I'd had some time to use those tools, but since it's right here at the beginning and I haven't, I'm like, hey. So I'd rather be safe and come back and do it when I feel like I'm more equipped to do it. I will admit that although I made peace with our choice to not do Whitney, that when I saw people's pictures, I did feel a little bit of FOMO, but I knew in my gut that I was not ready to commit to that kind of mountaineering experience. Although I had slept better the night before, I still think I was feeling the effects of the altitude. I was enjoying the beauty and everything that was surrounding us, but I felt extremely exhausted, and that made me cranky, which means I'm not a very fun hiking partner. Luckily though, Barbie is so sweet that even when I stomped my feet at the littlest of water crossings, he puts up with me. However, our lunch spot for the day gave me a reprieve from my bad mood. Not only was it an absolutely stunning little meadow spot, but we made a little friend during lunch. It was our first marmot of the trail. I'm gonna apologize in advance for how many videos I have of these guys, but they are literally my favorite, and I love them. They are so cute. They are similar to groundhogs. They're technically like giant rodents. But just look at him. This is who I want to be. I love him. When I'm reincarnated, I want to be a marmot sunning on a rock. Look at these views. Oh, stunning. Breathtaking views and an adorable marmot had turned my entire day around. And then we reached my favorite view on the Pacific Crest Trail thus far. Bighorn Plateau was spectacular. I have never seen anything like this. It was 360 views all the way around, and I just couldn't get over the fact that I was actually here and seeing this with my own two eyes. How did something like this even exist? It seemed like it was out of a fairy tale. And now I also understood why you couldn't camp here, but it was so beautiful to walk through. I savored every single second, and just when I thought that this view couldn't get any better, a little marmot popped out of his home. In that moment, I was in awe. My joy soon turned to anxiety when we reached a sketchy river crossing. We looked for alternates, but there was no way but through. Luckily, Barbie and I had learned of a buddy method, and we went across together. The next morning, we were up way before the sun as we were tackling our first pass and the highest point of the Pacific Crest Trail, Forester Pass. I'd be lying if I said that I wasn't terrified out of my mind for this first pass and what it would bring. I had no idea what to expect, and I never liked that feeling. But I knew that I was capable and that I was surrounded by friends, but it only eased my anxiety a little bit. Despite being a ball of anxiety, I did recognize how beautiful this morning was as we got to watch the sun hit the rocks of the mountains and light it all up. Then we were at the base of Forester, and it looked like a solid climb straight up the snow. That did not help my anxiety, but all I could do was go forward or go backwards, and I definitely wasn't going backwards. It was through pure, stubborn spite that I made it to the top. Well, that and the encouragement of friends. But Barbie and I made it to the top of Forester Pass.
Is it sticking up?
Okay. Did it, and I haven't cried yet. Yes, the key word there. As terrified as I had been before the climb and during the climb, this view, it was worth it. It was worth every little moment of anxiety. I think sometimes when we see people doing epic things that we think that they're not scared, but in reality, I think that they just do it scared anyways because they hope that the reward will outweigh the terror that they might have felt. And that's exactly how I felt after finishing Forester. And once we descended down the other side of the pass, I was even more in awe. And I was rewarded by seeing a marmot. And seeing those chunky little cuties was a new trail treat that I didn't know I needed. After a nice long break for snacking and to refill our waters and to just enjoy this beautiful spot that we were in, we eventually started hiking again. It was honestly really hard for me to leave. I felt as if there would never be enough time to soak in this view, and I wished that there were some way that I could emblazon it in my brain forever, but I guess this video will have to do.
This is just so beautiful. I can't not.
I was explaining to Barbie why I kept stopping. I just couldn't stop taking pictures. I had to take as many as I could. I wanted to remember this moment forever. Today we did our first big mountain pass of the Sierras, and we did our 5th river crossing. It is day 51 on the Pacific Crest Trail, and it's been a wild day so far. It's only like 11:30, but yeah, Forester Pass was equally as bad and also not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It was terrifying, but some spots were kind of cool, and the views, I mean, the mountains back here are just like nothing I've ever seen before. They're like stunning. They like don't seem real. It feels like I'm walking through like a screensaver. So they're absolutely stunning, and I didn't cry on Forester, so that's good. One pass down, a lot more to go. Yeah, the climb up, it was like really steep and snowy, but we made it, and then the climb down was snowy too, and then I got to go sled for the first time, which basically means that I slid on my ass in the snow like a slide, and that was kind of fun. Though I think I kind of got like some snow burn on my legs, but anyways, yeah. First big pass of this year is done. I slept like shit again last night. I think that the altitude is getting to me again, which that really, like, I'm feeling that right now. I'm very tired. I'm ready to go to bed. But we are gonna try and take Kearsarge Pass and go into Bishop either tonight or first thing tomorrow morning. So first little section of the Sierra is done, and that'll be really super exciting, but gotta finish today first. But yeah, thrilled to have our first pass over with, because yeah, that was one of my fears. So it still is one of my fears, but it's nice to have one under my belt. With every mile that we walked, I could see why this section of trail was everyone's favorite. Though I knew that we had many more challenging passes and miles ahead, I already knew that this was going to be one of my favorite sections as well. What I didn't know was just how exhausting it would be to do Forester Pass and Kearsarge Pass in the same day, and how complicated it would be to get a ride from the campground at Kearsarge Pass into Independence or Lone Pine. We admittedly had not thought this through, but luckily a nice man named Kurt gave us a ride down the mountain into Independence, where we stayed in this adorable little inn for the night, and the next morning we'd take the bus into Bishop. By the time our trail family of 8 had all made it down the mountain, we were exhausted, but Barbie and Donkey had some energy the next morning. Donkey had introduced us to this song a few weeks prior, and since then it had been an epic pump-up song, and Barbie and Donkey were definitely getting themselves ready for a town day in Bishop. But not without a delicious breakfast from our wonderful little stay first. By the way, this quaint little place is called the Mount Williamson Motel and Base Camp, and its view of the mountains behind it was absolutely stunning. I almost wished we weren't leaving. But we had heard wonderful things about Bishop, and we were excited to get to town and let our legs and bodies rest from the first grueling days of the Sierra Nevadas. The complicated thing about the Sierra Nevadas is that these towns were very far from the trail. So when we took Kearsarge Pass to get into town, that was actually a 7-mile trail, not on the PCT that we had to take so that we could get a ride into town. And then from there, it was a 45-minute ride into Independence. It was absolutely worth it, and we loved getting to see these small towns. I just wanted to point out that the logistics on this trail were a little bit more difficult.
Okay, wait, Barbie, how many sandwiches?
Half a sandwich, which is big, and a whole sandwich, which is also big.
Okay.
Bon appetit, everyone.
Our hiker hunger had definitely started to kick in, so we loved enjoying these delicious sandwiches from, well, I'm going to put the name on the screen because I will unfortunately butcher it. And then, because I never actually rest on a 0 day, I went wandering around Bishop. And I'm just going to go ahead and let y'all know that Bishop, California was one of my favorite towns of the Pacific Crest Trail. Their Sage to Summit gear store was one of the best gear stores that we had seen on trail thus far. I honestly had felt like this trail was really lacking in good gear stores up to this point. But this one basically had anything you thought you would need. And they had 2 other gear stores as well. But admittedly, Sage to Summit was my favorite. And besides the fact that I always seek out treats, y'all know I love a good bookstore, so we had to go in to Spellbinder Books. And while I of course did not pick up any books because I'm not carrying that weight, they did have some really beautiful greeting cards, and I also always buy a card or a postcard to send my mom from every town, and so this was the perfect place to grab some of those. While in town, we enjoyed so much yummy food, but admittedly, one of my favorites that I am still dreaming and thinking about is the Looney Bean of Bishop. And while their food was delicious, the thing that really stands out to me that I wish that I could have like drop shipped to me is their pumpkin pie chai. I do realize that it was the middle of June, but I had to enjoy this because they make it all year round and it's like a house-made syrup. It was one of the best chais I've ever had and I still dream about it. During our time in Bishop, we had found a spot called the East Side Guest House and Bivvy and it was really nice. It was kind of like a fancy version of a hostel. It wasn't officially a hostel, but it had hostel vibes and even gave us some loaner clothes. It was a little bit on the pricier side, but we were able to use the big yard to spread out all of our gear and do some much needed maintenance, and we were really grateful for that. After some chores, we headed back out for some exploring and headed to the Black Sheep Coffee Roasters, which was an absolutely adorable little coffee shop. I had a delicious matcha, and I really loved their little artist-done postcards that had some little sheep enjoying coffee on them. After rejuvenating myself with some caffeine, I headed to another bakery, the Great Basin Bakery, where I enjoyed the cowgirl cookie, which had like apricots and some kind of nuts in it. And it honestly was kind of like a delicious, healthy cookie, though it was definitely still sugary, but it was absolutely amazing. I had one last local foodie stop to make to enjoy an early dinner before we headed to a local street festival. You could tell that this town had a great community because everyone was out enjoying this festival, dancing, and having a good time. I really loved this town, and it was really special that we got to enjoy it. The next morning, we enjoyed some last bites of real food, and I had one last pumpkin pie chai from the Looney Bean before we said goodbye to Bishop and headed back up to Kearsarge Pass. It had been 2 wonderful 0 days, but it was time to get back on the trail, and we were ready to tackle whatever else the Sierra Nevadas had in store for us. I climbed back up Kearsarge Pass with quite a few days worth of food on my back. In that way, I felt weighed down, but in other ways, I felt elated because we had just had a wonderful few days in town and we were coming back on trail to some views that took my breath away. Plus, we had packed out some delicious sandwiches and I had packed out another cowgirl cookie from Great Basin Bakery, so that made it pretty wonderful too. Although my mind was full of the challenging passes ahead of us and some scary river crossings, I also couldn't help but think about the fact that not many people get to see these places that we were getting to see. It is not easy to get into the backcountry of Sequoia National Park and Kings Canyon, but yet here we were enjoying its beauty. This morning, we were headed up our second pass of the PCT, and we were headed up Glen Pass. My anxiety was getting a little bit high with each step, but my excitement also got really high when I saw my first pika of the trail. Oh my gosh, how cute are they? The climb up Glen Pass actually wasn't that bad, and the view at the top was absolutely stunning. But the descent of Glen Pass was one of my least favorites of this entire section of trail. While I was incredibly grateful for the boot pack of the hikers that had come before us, the angle that it was at made me feel like at any moment, if I took a wrong step, I would just slide down the mountain. Not to mention that at one point, some disrespectful hiker came running down this sketchy section of snow and ice, almost knocking down any hiker in their wake. It was really uncool, dangerous, and nerve-wracking. But it seemed as though after tough moments, the Sierra was rewarding me, not only with these breathtaking views, but with that little marmot that you saw a few seconds back. They were my favorite little creatures, and it always brought me such joy to see them just sunbathing out on the trail. I was also a little bit jealous of them. It is day 55 on the PCT, and I feel like dog shit. I don't know if it's because Shark Week is starting in a few days, or if I don't have enough electrolytes, or if I'm purely just tired. But I like do not want to move today. We've done like 4 miles. And granted, it was a hard 4 miles, but I'm ready to go to sleep. Like I could fall asleep in the grass right over there. But anyways, let's get into the last few days. Yesterday we got back on trail after 2 0s in Bishop. Bishop was absolutely wonderful. We weren't really planning on taking 2 0s, but then we were enjoying ourselves so much that we took 2. And yeah, Bishop's definitely now one of my one of my favorite towns on the PCT so far. It was lovely. It had 2 bakeries and a few coffee shops, and actually had some gear stores, which was amazing. And yeah, we just had a really nice time. It was a little warm because it was like 4,000 feet in elevation, and we're back at like 10,000. So it was a little warm. Kind of felt like being back in the desert, but you know, otherwise it was an adorable town, a place that I would definitely go back to, and that we really enjoyed our time. So yesterday we got back on. We did the 7.4 of the Kearsarge Pass just to get back onto the PCT, and then we set up camp right before Glen. And this morning we did Glen, and I didn't think that it was gonna be like that bad. I feel like it should have felt easier than Forester, but honestly I think like Forester felt easier to me. I don't know what about this one was different, but the descent definitely felt sketchier. And yeah, I don't know. Again, I just feel really tired today. And I don't feel good. So I don't know, I'm hoping something. I'm gonna make some electrolytes when we get to lunch, and I'm hoping something changes here. So, but I will say that the views are beautiful. So there's that.
Despite my exhaustion, I couldn't get over these views, and I was feeling really grateful to experience them.
So pretty.
Due to the terrain, the altitude, and our 2 0 days in Bishop, we had slowed down just a little bit, but we had finally made it to the 800-mile marker, and the Sierras were proving to be a section that I wished would go on for longer. But at the same time, I think that the challenge of it would be something I would be grateful to finish. One of the unexpected challenges of the Sierra Nevadas that I actually came to enjoy was the incredibly early mornings. We were often up and hiking way before the sun rose, just to ensure that we'd get to the pass before it completely unfroze. Those mornings when we got to watch these magnificent mountains wake up were some of my favorites.
It is day 56 on the Pacific Crest Trail, and we are currently making our way up Pinchot Pass, which is supposedly supposed to be easier, and honestly so far it is, but I've still had to put on my micro spikes, so the true easy pass will be the one that I don't have to put on my micro spikes at all. But yeah, we're headed up our first pass of the day, Pinchot, so 1.3 to the top. Made it up Pinchot. The view is pretty spectacular, but it's windy and cold.
The climb up Pinchot did end up being relatively easy comparatively to the other passes, and the view was absolutely stunning. But I was grateful for its ease, for we had another pass in store for us that day. I was also always grateful for Barbie's moments of silliness that not only made me laugh, but our entire trail family. While laughing over Barbie's antics and preparing for our next pass, I enjoyed my oatmeal in one of the prettiest places I've ever eaten. And then I spent way too much time admiring this beautifully chunky, fluffy marmot who was having the time of his life snacking on the grass. I finally made myself walk away from my beloved marmot friend to continue on towards our next pass, a notoriously tough one, we were headed to Mather Pass.
We made it over Pinchot, and it actually wasn't as bad as some of the other ones have been. The snowfields were kind of big and long, which means that it took forever, but you know, it wasn't as like sketchy or terrifying. Though there was a little part at the end where we had to like climb up the snow, and that was a little scary, but it was fine. Yeah, and now we are officially down at the bottom of Pinchot, and we are also gonna try to do Mather today because apparently it is better to do that one in the afternoon, because otherwise in the morning it becomes a giant sheet of ice, which sounds horrible. But yeah, apparently that one's pretty sketchy. So we're gonna try and do that one this afternoon. But we've got another river crossing coming up, so I've got to put down my phone.
Well, as you can see from my gesture here, I had some feelings about Mather Pass. The view from the top was again stunning with the jagged mountains and the beautiful snow patches, but the climb itself had been treacherous and potentially our sketchiest yet, with part of the switchbacks covered in slick, steep snow and the other half in dirt. We thought that the dirt would be the safer route to go, but the dirt ended up being the same way, with boulders coming loose and rocks sliding down.
We made it over Mather. That absolutely royally sucked. It's probably been one of my least favorite passes. The ascent was worse than the descent, even though everybody said the descent sucked. But the ascent, we were basically like rock scrambling, and a lot of the big rocks were loose and the dirt was loose, and yeah, it was terrifying. The other side wasn't great either. It was really slushy, but apparently in the morning it's like ice. Ooh, tree to the face. So yeah, we thought it would be better to do it in the afternoon. I'm not really sure what was better, but we made it. And I am exhausted, and yeah. I mean, the views after these passes are beautiful, but oh man, they're hard. And they definitely, not even physically just take something out of me, but mentally, because damn, that shit is scary. But we made it. And look at that view. And I've seen lots of marmots, which are my favorite. It is a chilly evening. I look like a doofus. But yeah, it's been a long and tiring day. I have some nice warm tea, and it is time to go to bed and say goodbye to week 8 on the PCT. And we'll see what week 9 brings.